I get really excited about these messages and kind of what God's doing in the flow. And when I was putting the pieces I already had the show, but I started putting the pieces and the meat together with the message for tonight. I got to tell you, I got home and I did not shut up for like an easy 20, 30 minutes to Lisa. Just going off about the reality of the heart of where the scripture is tonight and what we're going to hear about it. And how real and present the Word proves itself to be over and over and over again. But before I get going into that, I've got right here in my hand something that those who have gone over to Slovakia know exactly what it is. What is this?
Kinder egg.
It's a Kinder egg. Okay? So, I heard about these crazy things, and we're over there, and we wanted to get some, and worst day ever. The store was not open, and we got to the airport, so we couldn't get them. And I was like, no, all right, whatever, I'll wait. And me and about, of our team of 24, about 18 of us crashed out on the chairs, benches, whatever you want to call it, at the airport. I mean, we just tap, gone. And we were dead. And I woke up, and I had a box of 6 of these. True story, laying right on my backpack. So I opened my eyes and it's like the glory of the Lord just kind of shone right in the moment. I was like, God knew that I wanted these. And I knew that actually somebody else hooked me up. But God used that somebody to hook me up. So it was a beautiful thing. But these things are crazy. Like, you get it and you have no idea what's inside. Now, I will say this. There was one that said they had Star Wars stuff inside. That was a falsehood. I know, because I got one, and I opened it. It had nothing to do with Star Wars at all. Maybe it has something to do with the little warped version of Star Wars, but it was not Star Wars I know of any of the 6. I'm just saying. And yes, I just nerded myself out with that, but I'm just calling it what it is. I was sadly not. I was surprised, but not in a good way. It's a true story. But I got these, and I opened it up, and I was like, oh. And inside, I swear it almost looks like a munchkin. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you call those things? Minions? Minions, yeah. Now we know. And I was like, oh, we see it. Okay, it's still minions. Now, mind you, this stuff right here, I don't really know what I think about the fact that this thing came in this egg. So I was kind of suspect on do I actually want to eat it. But I was like, oh, it's all right. Some of them actually have cream in them, too. And that's kind of odd because you got to use your fingers and like scoop cream for a while. Really kind of messy. I can do that, and I'm fine with that. There's chocolate up here at some point for somebody that wants it. But I was like, you never know what you're going to get. So I'm like, all right. Well, I was smacking on my chocolate and enjoying it. And I opened it up. I haven't figured out how to open it up. All right. And I was like, sweet, what is this? All right. And I opened it because I really, really wanted these. True story. And I opened it to the wrong side. And true story is exactly how it happened the first time too. And like I saw all these languages. And yeah, I didn't really recognize English. Like at all. I mean, like at all. And I thought, I'm really tired. Turned it over, kept going. I was like, oh, okay, more languages. Where in the world is English? You know, and I just, again, finally found it. You know, we're so spoiled in America, like, English is the first instructions. Then you have all the rest. Well, no. It's like in the middle of something, you know, so you really have to, like, look, you know. But, how's your little, hey, look for this, how's your little whatever. And I'm thinking, are we serious that a grown man is like wanting to play with this toy? And the answer was yes, actually, it's true. I did want to play with it. So I opened my little thing, got it, looked at my instructions, and did what every good man does when he gets the instructions. And after I didn't see American language, I then saw it, and I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't need it. And I was like, oh, what is this? And it was a crazy little toy. Now, mind you, this is a different toy than one of the ones I had. But hey, you know, it's like, hey, you can do a lot with this kind of thing, you know, a little magnifying glass and kind of walk around. And again, I'm thinking, I was really excited for this. Like, and yep, Slovakians, don't you leave me hanging. You all get up on that limb with me. How many of y'all were like, I want some Kinder eggs? Come on. Put them up, own it, be proud. That's right. You're like, yeah, I want it. And half of us wanted it because we heard about it, right? But we wanted it. I almost was willing to lose sleep for these. I'm so glad somebody else did instead. It was lovely. Because, yeah, no, and they're all different toys. Like, it's true, I've got a couple more in my office, because every now and then I open one. Because I just get curious, because I want to know what's inside. And yes, they are all just as cheap. Cheap piece of plastic. But when you're only paying so much money, I don't really know what I was expecting inside. You know what I'm saying? Like, was I expecting like a PlayStation? It's going to pop out a little piece of chocolate? I have no idea what I was expecting. But just so you know, if you go with us overseas this summer and you get those Kinder eggs, just know, you're just getting a cheap toy. And they're really only exciting if you're really, really tired. If you're really tired, they're awesome. But a bunch of y'all, like, especially that didn't go over there with me overseas, you're like, David, we're moving on now. Keep going, because you don't get it. You don't understand. But I wanted it. Damn it, I wanted it. Okay? And I think about that, like, in life, I think a lot of times we do that. I think a lot of times we're like, I can't wait for blank. I really want this. And sometimes we even look at, like, things of the world, and we're like, man, I so wish I could have whatever it is that we see out there in the world. And we want it. And sometimes we want it really, really bad. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we get desperate for it. Why? I don't know. Because maybe it's the unknown factor. Maybe it's that unknown, like it looks on the outside like it's going to be so good. And then we get in there at it. And it's like, ooh, is that really what I wanted? Not so sure. But tonight's message really isn't talking about, hey, think about, smoking or dipping or drinking or sex or any of that. That's not what it's about tonight. About how you want to go try that just to see it because the world's got it. Tonight's actually about something a whole lot in a bigger realm than that. Tonight's actually about know what you're asking for. Know what you're asking for. The Israelites, the people, God's chosen people from way back in the very beginning, they didn't have something that all the rest of the peoples of the world had. It was a king. The Israelites never had a king. Their king was God. God alone. They had leaders. They had prophets, they had the priests, they had their leaders that would come out and guide them where they needed to go. That would speak into them the words of life. They had those people. But they didn't have a king. Now see, kings of the world, they had power. And that's a true story. Kings of the world, they had their subjects, some that were on that inner court and some that were just subjects living in their land. But the kings had rights to all these people that were in their kingdom. In exchange, the king would protect his kingdom. He would, in theory, care for his kingdom. But it was for his kingdom alone. The Israelites never had that. They just kind of moved. And they went as they were led. This passage, we kind of are fast forwarding, and we're going to hit in 1 Samuel. But Samuel was just, he was another one of those prophets, man. He was another one of those ones that went out before. And he was with God, he prayed to God. You got where the Ark of the Covenant, and very, very, I don't know how to try to put this in an easy term. The Ark of the Covenant was something very prized by the Israelite people, by God's chosen people. It was very sacred. It was one of those things, I guess the easiest way to do it. Have y'all ever heard don't cuss in church? Y'all ever heard that? Right? Because church is apparently different than other places. If you cuss in church, God will hear you as opposed to cussing outside of church, right? I never really understood that. And deacons used to all be like smoking all the time, but at least they were respectful enough to do it in the parking lot because you don't smoke in church now. It's like, really? Whatever you do outside of church, you'll be allowed to do in church and vice versa. Because you are who you are. And God is in all places at all times. You know what I mean? So, anyway, but back in the olden day, if you will, and I mean back in the olden day, before my day, because I didn't do the whole church singing school and all that. If you came into church with a hat on, what happened? Some of my guys right now, they already know. What happened? I got no hat on. What you talking about? Okay, I'm going to be calling you after your mama. All right? But you know, right? You got your hat off, and if you didn't get your hat off in church, what happened? Yeah. Chris started backhand you. I'm going to get that hat off your head. You know? Knock it up, right? That's what happened. You know? And you don't talk in church. Oh, you walk into church, and it's almost like, and if you move from that position, because there was no youth section, you were sitting with my mom and dad. You move from this position. I saw your eyes move. I heard you speaking. And y'all know that's true. That's absolutely true. You know, and you respect the altar, and you all this. Now, mind you, hear me. By all means, hear me. I'm not disrespecting the inside of the church or the altar at all. Please know that. Catch the big picture here as we keep going. But the Ark of the Covenant was something that they just, it was sacred. And the Philistines came at one point, and these were basically just thugs, leave it at that for right now. The Philistines came, took it. When they took it, they realized things weren't going so well for them anymore. And the Philistines wanted to give that Ark back quick. They couldn't give it back quick enough. So they're trying to give it back, and the Israelites freak out, and they're like, they're going to kill us, they're going to whatever. And these people really, in quick bonglish, the Philistines were going, bro, seriously, no, we don't want this because this is wreaking havoc on our lives. Would you please take your stupid ark back? Because the ark was not meant for the Philistines. They can't understand it. It was not meant for them. It's not about them. So these thugs basically were giving back for their sake. Not because they cared about the Israelites. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. Nothing to do with that. It was wreaking havoc on their lives, so they realized, I need to give this back. Even though they didn't understand it, they just knew something wasn't right. They knew something wasn't right. So we're going to pick up in 1 Samuel. And we're going to start in chapter 7. All right? So 1 Samuel chapter 7. If you don't have your Bible on this way, it'll be up on the screen behind me. I'm actually going to read verse 2, which is not on the screen, but it says, it was a long time, 20 years in all, that the ark remained at Kiriath Jearim, and all the people of Israel mourned, and they sought after the Lord. These people are trying to be like, we're not really understanding what all is happening here, but they are trying to seek the Lord. Picking into verse 3, here we go, let's run it. And Samuel says to the whole house of Israel, if you will return to the Lord with all your hearts, all right, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths, and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve him only. Hold up. Okay, rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths. The Ashtoreths, just so you know, Baals, okay, the Baal, basically that was like the male version of their idols, their gods, if you will. The Ashtoreths, these were the female versions. You're going to notice a trend. If you ever look at the Old Testament, just really try to dig in. Just so you know, a lot of sin is based around sex. Straight up. And a lot of the Ashtoreth realm, when they're worshiping that, it's a lot about sexual nature, which is not right. And they're told, right here, commit yourselves to the Lord and serve. Get rid of all that. Commit yourselves to the Lord and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashtoreths, and they served the Lord only. Served, action, the Lord only. Then Samuel says, assemble all Israel at Mizpah, and I will intercede with the Lord for you. When they had assembled at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. Basically what that means is they're recognizing that they are sinful people and they need to be cleansed and let that come out of them. That's really all that means. Okay? It's like a repentant heart, or repentant nature, if you will. That's what that dynamic of taking that water and spilling it out, consecrating themselves. Here, God, cleanse me out. Take all of me. Just cleanse me out. Okay? So, On that day they fasted, and there they confessed, "We have sinned against the Lord." And Samuel was leader of Israel at Mizpah. All right, so basically what's happening right here is you've got Samuel saying, all right, you want to turn around and go the way that you need to go? You want to turn around and make sure that you are safe? You want to make sure that you're safe from the Philistine people? You want to make sure you are on track with where God wants you to go? I'll help you out right here, right now. Here's how you get on track. Own your sin. Own it. And here's how I had to own it. Get rid of anything that's not of God in your life. You catch that? You want to be right with God? All right, cool. Get rid of anything that has nothing to do with Him. Anything that you are putting higher priority on than God alone, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Not, God, I ask that you just forgive me. I'm going to keep it with me, okay? But please forgive me that I have this. No. Get rid of it and confess. And if you think about it, He's really not asking a lot. See, what boys don't understand is one day when they come up to me and start saying, "I want to date your daughter." Praise God for gun laws, number one. But number two, let me help them out real quick and real easy. They better make sure that they have nothing else of higher priority in their life when they're ready to move that forward towards marriage. Because if they have anything else of higher priority than my daughter in their mind, they better just walk on home. Walk on. While they can still walk. Just saying. All right? Am I right? Think about it. Girls, you want somebody to come to you? Girl, I love you. You're something, girl. I love you. I'm going to keep all these other things right here. I'm going to have you on this song, honey. Right? You going to go for that? Sadly, a lot of girls do, just saying. But really, girls, you going to go for that? No way. And guys, seriously, you lose in that one, just saying. You may think you have everything in your arms. I promise you, you lose in that one. Okay? If you want to turn around and become somebody's friend and really get into that deep relationship and friendship with them, can you bring in a lot of things that you know will cause them problems? Would you? Would you bring to them, I want to be your friend. So because I want to be your friend, Kevin, I'm going to bring all this stuff to you that I know is going to cause you a lot of problems. Is that me really being a friend? No. Okay, so step it up now. With God Almighty, Israelites, God's chosen people, He's saying, you really want God to protect you? You want to be in God's hand? Cool. The only way to get in His hand is to get rid of everything else and confess. And they didn't fight it. The people did it. They did it. I love that. They didn't fight what they needed to give up. They did it right then, on the spot. Done. Because they realized there's nothing of higher value than my relationship with my Creator. There's nothing of higher value than my relationship with God who made me, who has a perfect plan for me. Are you kidding? Why would I want to be anywhere else? I'm giving all that else up. And I'm getting in His hand. And I know I got to confess as well. I can't just get rid of it. I got to own it and speak it out. God, I sinned against you. And God will receive. He's always faithful to receive. Okay? Well then, the story keeps moving. In 1 Samuel 7, verse 12. I love what Samuel does here in all this because it ended up winning. The Philistines came. They actually got shaken by the Lord. Started to take off. Israelites were able to defeat them. In verse 12, I love what Samuel does. He takes a stone and he sets it up between Mizpah and Shen. He named it Ebenezer, saying, thus far the Lord helped us. By the way, y'all, any of you people that know hymns, here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come. This is where it comes from. Okay? Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come. This is it, right here, verse 12. And Samuel took a stone, he sets it up between Mizpah and Shen, and he names it Ebenezer, saying, thus far the Lord helped us. What Samuel's doing here is, these people truly, with all their heart, they turned and gave their lives to the Lord. They said, all right, I know I'm here, I need to be there. So I'm letting go of everything here, and I'm going there. And what Samuel does is he says, all right, just so everybody knows, this is what happened. Here's this stone of remembrance. We're going to raise it up because this is the day the Lord helped us. Why did the Lord help us? Because you owned who you were and became who you were called to be. And he helped you. Remember that. He gave them that rock of remembrance. He gave them that stone. You follow? It's so important to remember that. I get to write a lot of songs, and what's crazy is, if you look back at some of the first songs that God ever poured into me, that I started walking through, and songs that don't even have chords and music yet for it, if you look in and walk through it, you can almost tell what was going on in my life. Because it really started picking up when we were going through everything we did with Jaden. And then all of a sudden the songs started coming. I started realizing more of who I was, my frailty as a man. And then things kept going. And then I had rejoicing moments and things start picking up. And you can just see that in the songs. Songs of confession, songs of praise. You can just see it. Even now, when songs are coming, you can see. And if you start to hear some of my personal, not random testimony of like pieces that I'm going to give, but if you sit with me and we actually have a conversation and you're like, David, talk to me about what's inside of you, I guarantee you, you'll see it in the songs that have been written and even marked by date. And I love that because of this reason alone. I can look back at those songs and I can go, God, I remember when you did this in my life. And when I remember that, it makes it a whole lot harder to want to walk away. Hello? You follow what I'm saying? When you remember the good things that God has done for you, it makes trusting Him become a whole lot easier. We lose our trust in God when we start focusing on ourselves. We lose our trust in God when we start focusing on everything else that we might want. But I love what Samuel does. He teaches us something huge. He goes, you're not raising this Ebenezer, this stone, this system. Thus far the Lord has helped. The reason He helped is because we were who we were supposed to be. You want to make sure that you're always where you need to be with God. You better make sure you put those stones of remembrance up everywhere you go as you journey in faith. Because when you forget those moments, you lose sight of the faithfulness of God. And why would you want to lose sight of the faithfulness of the one who loves you and gave you everything? Right? The one who lavished His love all over you. Why would you want to lose sight of that? So you raise that up. Things keep moving. Where did I put my Bible? Like my Bible, for example, keeps moving. There it is. All right. Okay. So, things keep moving. We get down to chapter 8, and in verses 1 and 2, and I'm not sure if they're up there, but Samuel grows old. He appoints his sons as judges for Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah. And they served at Beersheba. Verse 3. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. All of a sudden, you would think like with those Kinder eggs, one of those chocolate eggs is going to be like this. But I will tell you, I was disappointed at one point. It's true. Because some of the first Kinder eggs I opened up had cream in them, and I did get to play. Sometimes I'm just a kid. I'm just saying, my poor wife has like 3 children at home, you know. But I was playing with the cream, and actually we've had one here that I was playing with one time, and some people that saw me in my office playing with it, it was just odd. Hi, David Blocker, nice to meet you. But then I opened up some other Kinder eggs, and it was like almost like this cheap plastic chocolate, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's almost even felt like plastic. It tastes a little bit like plastic chocolate. When you try some, if you try some, I'm just telling you, it tastes like plastic chocolate. I'm just saying. Okay? And there was no cream. And I was like, why is there no cream? What am I supposed to play with? Just this toy that I already know is going to be just a cheap little toy? Seriously? Because I think that they're all supposed to be the same. And you got Samuel. He's having these kids. And you would think that these sons who are coming behind him are going to live as he lived. Just like you would assume that my two kids are going to walk in the ways of the Lord. They're in my home. They're hearing testimony of things that God has done. So you would assume that as they age, they're going to trust in the Lord. They're going to lean not on their own understanding, but they're going to trust in Him and lean on His. That's what you would assume. Well, these guys aren't. They're actually kind of twisting things for their own thing. And watch what happens. Verse 4. The elders of Israel gathered together, and they came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." You catch that? He's saying, you're old, a.k.a., bro, you're pretty much done. That's past. You're knocking on the door, and it's okay. But your two boys, they're not living in a manner worthy of God. Mind you, I've never really seen the Israelites stay faithful and consistent, I'm just saying. So it's crazy how they can judge, right? But hear me, it is a true story. These people are judging Samuel's two sons? Really? But the reason they are is kind of like this. Y'all know this is true. Oh, David wouldn't come in here and watch this movie. Why? It's got too many cuss words in it, blah, 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 blah. My easy question back is, then what's your bottom doing? What makes you any different than who I ought to be in Christ? Right? If I can't go watch a movie that's got all this cussing in it, why are you? Well, dude, that's because you're a pastor. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know pastors may be holier than you. Hello. Oh, yeah, that's right. It doesn't make me holier than you. All I can say on is Christ, just like you. All I am told to get dressed in every day is clothed in Christ and dressed with His armor. Just like you. Just like you. But most of the time, in reality, these people, not a whole lot unlike today, are going to call out the leaders, even if they're not living lives worthy of the calling. They're going to call out leaders who are screwing up, because they are screwing up, and they're going to want something else. Instead of rising up to be something else that's right, they're just going to call for somebody else. And here's what they did. They said, the end of verse 5, "Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." In verse 6, "But when they said, 'Give us a king to lead us,' man, this displeased Samuel. So he prays to the Lord, and the Lord tells him, 'Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king.'" God's saying, Samuel, they're not rejecting you, bro. They're rejecting me. Because God has always been their king. Kind of like if we're singing some song, "Your love never fails and never gives up," and some of you are like, "Oh, I just love that song, so I'm just going to worship." And then we start singing "Christ alone, cornerstone." Oh, that's not really my favorite, so I'm just going to do this. When I see worship leaders ever get dejected, I want to tell them all the time, "Baby, you're good. It's not you they're rejecting. They're rejecting worshiping God, not you. You're good." Because they're worshiping their preferences. And that's kind of what God's saying to Samuel. He's like, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting me as their king. Verse 8. "As they've done," check this out. Look at God just calling out the laundry now. "As they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, So they are doing to you. Now listen to them. Listen to them. Warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will do. Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking for a king, and he says, this is what the king who will reign over you will do. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots. Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of fifties, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves, and he'll give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and of your vintage and give it to his officials and attendants. Your men servants and maidservants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own use. He will take a tenth of all your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you're going to cry out for relief from the king you've chosen, and the Lord will not answer you in that day. Hear verse 18 again. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, and the Lord will not answer you in that day. And the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said. We want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. I don't know if 21 is up there or not, but I'm going to read it. When Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. And the Lord answered, listen to them, give them a king. Then Samuel says to the men of Israel, everyone go back to his town. Here's what he does. Samuel's like, this is not a good situation. And he goes to God. And here's what God in his grace does. God in his grace goes, okay, they want a king. They want to be like all the other nations. All right. Let them know, though. Let them know. Just so you know, if you choose a king, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to all be subject to the one you call out as king. And that king's not really going to be fair. See, the king's going to take these sons and do this with them, and these sons and do this, and these daughters and do that, and these daughters and do that. And then, not just that, the king is also going to come, and he's going to take all of the best you have for himself. He's also going to take, and this will strike a chord because I know what this means. He's going to take a tenth of everything you have. When you hear the word tenth today being given, what do you think of? A what? A what? You saying it? Come on. You think of your tithe. A tithe that you're supposed to bring and give to who? God. And he's saying, the king is going to take a tenth from you. That king is going to take a tithe from you, just so you know. Is this what you want? And just so you know, when that king gets harsh with you, you're going to start crying about that king going, no, that's not right, that's not fair. And love you mean a lot. The Lord's not going to hear you. Just so you know, that doesn't mean the Lord's calloused. The Lord's basically saying, if that's what you choose, you can have it. Now, I'm not always the brightest one, just saying. What part of anything I just said makes you go, that's the life I want to live? Right? Please, put me underneath somebody like that. Like if I was your king, I'm going to come over to your house later, and I'm going to take the best stuff that I think is in your house. And I'm sorry if you want it. If it's the best, and I'm your king, it's mine. And oh, you earned that, didn't you? Give me a tenth of it. And oh, by the way, I want you to do this. I don't want to do that. I didn't ask. Hello? This king who did not ordain a perfect plan for your life is going to start telling you what's up. He's going to own you. God says, if that's what they want. See, because God's a God who loves you, and God's not going to say, Corbin, you have to follow me. You don't want to follow me? Don't follow me, Corbin. That's up to you. Now, there is a consequence, just saying. But I'm not going to make you. That's on you. That's on you. The God of all ages, the God who made you, the God who sent his son to die on a cross for you, says, if you don't want to follow me, baby, you don't have to. But just know those consequences. Just understand that. The thing that strikes me over and over in this passage as I look at it and think about it, and I think about everything we talked about every week. And if you haven't been here for the other weeks, I know they're online already, whatever, but what strikes me every time I see and think about this passage is how it says, we want a king like all the other nations. We want to be like the world. God, we choose the world over you. And Samuel fought for him. And the Lord said, no, there's no need to fight for this. Let them have it if they want it. That's on them. Pushing through, he ended up giving them a king. They got Saul as their first king. And you keep reading that in the book of Samuel. They got Saul as their first king. And Saul started out with some good, but Saul also screwed up and did some things that he wasn't supposed to do. Oh yeah, that's because Saul's not a perfect king. Because no one's perfect, only God. And this imperfect king made imperfect choices, and it affected the people. They try to make it right. And God finally gets to the point that he says, I think we actually have this up there in 1 Samuel 15:22, I believe. He's like, dude, yeah, here you go. Man, it's go to verse 15 if you don't, chapter 15 if you don't mind. There we go, thank you. Samuel replies, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. And what he's saying is this, because they were screwing up, and Saul had screwed up. He's saying, look, quit trying to earn your favor back. Quit trying to bring offerings to be like, hey, seriously, here, will this please you and now make me in right standing with you again? No. I want you just obey me. Quit thinking you got to clean up the messes. Quit thinking you got to try to bribe God, the King, to love you. You don't have to bribe him for nothing. He gives it freely. But he just wants you to obey him. Just obey him. Does he want us to sacrifice? Absolutely. But it starts with the obedience in our heart. My question to you all tonight is this. Have you caught yourselves maybe having moments where you're like, you know, I think I'd rather be with the world right now than let God be my king. I think I'd rather give control over me to somebody else than God. I don't know what that looks like for you. I know what it looks like for me. But I don't know what it looks like for you. It can look like I've got to have a relationship. Well, you can. You can have one with the lover of your soul, the one who made your soul, the one who died for your soul. You don't have to have a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend wise, but I know girls that can't handle being without a guy. And I know guys that can't handle not trying to be with every girl possible. True story. All right. Now that was true. Gotta have a relationship. And Jesus is up there going, right here. I gotta have popularity. I've gotta look like this. I've gotta look like that. Man, if I speak up and say something about my faith, man, people are gonna think this. So my king right now is gonna be these people that I don't want to think that I'm, well, faithful to God. I'm gonna let these people be my king. Really? Why would we do that? Now God's gonna be faithful to you, just so you know. God's gonna look right at you. He's gonna say, all right. You want to turn around and not have a relationship with me, Cody? You want to not have me lead you and guide you in that perfect path I have for you? That's cool, bro. Do you think? And God clearly calls out the costs. He'll tell you what the costs are. But he'll say, go for it. How many of you want to settle for less than the best? So that's kind of a hard one. Because I think about it, and I think about all that we have going on in our lives, and I think, how often do I say, I'm sick and tired of trying to figure this out. I'm sick and tired of trying to go down this road and this road and this road and feel like I'm running into dead ends and random things happen, and I see people that are being disobedient. So you know what? Because I'm seeing other people who are disobedient, hello, the Israelites, looking at Samuel's sons. Because I'm seeing other people who are being disobedient, you know what? I'm just done. So, give me somebody else to follow things. And I don't know about you, but as I keep reading the Old Testament, these people are hurt, bro. They're hurt for a long time. Time after time after time after time. People are like, why would God do that? The easiest response, I don't have to argue that ever. All I got to do is go. God didn't do that. They chose it. They chose to walk away from God. They chose, when they had God as their king, who had faithfully walked with them and carried them and been there for them. Yes, he's going to allow hard things to go on in their life so he can strengthen them and make them that much better and stronger of a people. Yes, he's going to do that. At the same time, he's going to totally be willing just to let them go if they want to go. Because what kind of relationship is it, Timmy? If I make you have to be there for me. If I make you have to choose me. If I do whatever I can to make you have to follow me, have to praise or build me up. If I make you have to do that, what kind of relationship is that? As opposed to, I can't wait to see you and say, man, how you doing? I can't wait to see you and say, how can I bless you? I can't wait to know something else about you. You see the difference in the relationship? All right? How much more so with God? He's not going to make you nothing. Are we called to go out and evangelize if we're Christ followers? Are we called to go out and tell others about Jesus? Are we? Yeah. Is that a commandment? Pretty much? I mean, just straight out. He said, go and tell, right? Are we told? Do not lie. Are we told that sex is for marriage? Come on. Are we told to respect one another? Submit to one another out of our reverence for Christ? Are we told to build one another up in love? Are we told that? Not as, hey, if y'all think about it, could you do this for me? So he tells you this is what you need to do. But see, I signed up for that when I said, I'm done with all these kings. I need you as my king. We kind of talked about this a little bit. I want to end this here. It's kind of like all the people that freak out about everything going on in the world today. I'm not. I'm not freaking out about it at all. If our economy crashed out tomorrow, okay. We'd have to figure something out, no big deal. But see, my king is the one who uses gold as asphalt in heaven. You hear what I'm saying? So while I may not have finances here, there will be a day that I'm going to be more than taken care of. But while I'm here, just so you know, if he's going to take care of the sparrow, he's going to take care of me. Because I'm his. So I don't have to freak out about everything going on around me. I can actually walk in peace because I have him. And when I see everybody getting away with murder, and I see everybody getting away with living like trash, when I see people like Samuel's sons, people that are no better, out living in sin, I don't have to freak out going, give me somebody else to follow. I already know who I should be following. All right. So here's the call for you. Maybe who you follow. Who are you following and why? And when things don't go your way, do you call out for another king? Or if you're a Christ follower, do you stick with the King of Kings? Where are you at? Let's pray. Father, thanks so much for your love. And God, I just thank you so much for everybody here. And God, I pray just so much, God, that you would just, Father, that you would help them just to lean on you. God, that you would help them to trust in you. God, that you would help them to not want to be like the world. To not want to have the rights that the world has. But God, that they want what you bring as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. If there's somebody here that doesn't know you, God, I pray that you'd help them to know you. Call them out tonight, God. Call them to you. And for those of us that know you, if we're getting distracted by other kings that we're putting in our lives, may we burn those things away, confess it, and get our focus back on you. God, we know what we're asking for when we get you, because you make yourself very clear. So help us walk with you now. In your Son's awesome name. Amen. Hey, real quick announcement. If you did Reach Out Week, I don't know who did the set program or whatever, the set diagram. If you did Reach Out Week,